collective group reading for the city of Cape Town for the Lionsgate portal that's going to be opening on the 28th of July, leading up to the 12th of August, peaking on the 8th of August. And yeah, I thought I'd just come online to share a little bit about what energies are going to be rippling through the collective at this time. So let's have a look at what's happening. So yeah, interesting reading. Kind of started at the top and then made its way down, so looking at what kind of energies are going to be happening in terms of our engagements, and then looking at our contraction to expansion cycles that we'll be going through as well, going from left to right. So at the top here, the card that we've got is soul mating. And that's how it reads, is specifically around the connections that we'll be forming during this time. So being able to find aligned connection to help us into our next evolution is something that's going to be called for during this time. And so being more conscious about who we spend our time with, how we spend our time, and where we spend our time is going to become very apparent during this time. And that will also help us move through the collective evolution that's happening during this Lionsgate portal. And during this time, so looking from left to right, we're looking at the contraction and the expansion. So this side is actually the expansive energy which we'll be feeling during this time, and this really, literally the cards that came out are energy and confidence. And this is really just it's explaining to us that this is it's kind of like that Leo lion energy, that like very bright sun energy. It's just like the expanded form of consciousness. So really feeling like going ahead with some of our projects, feeling confident about what we're putting out, feeling like we're in the right place, really gaining the confidence to really be who we know ourselves to be. That's really what's coming through during this time, and giving us some access to that energy again, because it might feel like that energy might have been out of our reach for some time, a lot of self-doubt. But that also just speaks into then the contraction. So we might be doing a little bit of this like kind of pulsing during this time, and that's going from this very expanded state of confidence to the other side of the spectrum, which is pain. And remember that when we're contracting and expanding and we're bouncing along a spectrum, it's normally a cycle of learning. We're normally bouncing along the spectrum, and once we understand both sides of the polarity, it gives us opportunity to rise into the next evolution or next curriculum that comes for us after this Lionsgate period. And so really going between the expansion of confidence and then the contraction of coming into this pain. And then I kind of asked for some clarity around what this pain really entails. And one of the cards that came up was the Daughter of Swords, and it's an owl carrying a sword. And it really just felt as when this card got drawn around this kind of cutting, we feel like things are cutting into us, and this pain of things being cut away from us, but also gaining the recognition that if we can be mindful that cutting is by something wise, and that's just bringing in the owl, the card has an owl on it, that our pain is not for nothing. So just being more conscious in this pain contraction, and with the cutting that is happening and the loss that we feel, that there is a wiser divinity happening that is coming through during that time. Also then the devil card came up, and that really in this reading has come up as like the devil's advocate. So being mindful that in our contraction and in our pain, there might be this voice that comes to us that we might be familiar with already around this devil's advocate, like everything that we think about ourselves in this expanded, confident, outgoing, assured state, then we might contract into the pain of doubting ourselves, of everything that we think we are, acting as devil's advocate, and really believing the opposite for a period of time, or sinking into the doubt that we might not be those things, and we might not deserve that energy, or whatever the thoughts might be that might arise that sends us into this contraction of pain. And also knowing that it's completely fine to be able to see the light and notice the shadow. It's totally fine to be able to go into that expanded state and then contract in order to be able to rest and just reserve our energy and turn inwards, and to not get too caught up in the voices. It's one thing to listen to them and take the critique in knowing how it is we can better ourselves, and how it is we can maybe surrender to the fact that we might not always be sunshine and rainbows, but also to realize that it is just part of a natural cycle, and it shouldn't prevent us from from getting back up and then rising back into that confidence and trying again and putting ourselves back out there. And so just being with that and breathing through the contraction and the expansion during this time will really help us step through and really learn about this polarity, so that we might evolve during this time into something that is more stable as we go through this Lion's Gate period. So during these contractions and expansions, one thing to take note of is these middle cards here, which is really about some of the process work that we can do during this time. And so the first card that comes up here is called Endless Opportunities. And really what this card is about, endless opportunities, is of noticing the endless opportunities that make themselves available during this time. So in this card we have lots of bubbles that are floating with butterflies in the bubbles, and then just being mindful of the different directions, different paths that are now opening for us, and maybe even making lists, mind mapping, drawing, thinking about the potential paths that we have open to us for our futures going forward, or for the next couple months. And then once we've become aware that we have all these open doors in different directions, then being able to sit and tune in to where the actual alignment in our body feels most attuned to. Which of these opportunities actually feels like we are slowly becoming aligned to, and how can we work to align ourselves with the frequency of that path so that we might attract it into our lives at a faster rate. So really looking at the potential paths, and then from those paths feeling the resonance of the paths and feeling where it is we feel like we are being drawn to. And then the last one here is life force energy, and this is really about conserving our life force energy and making sure that we're using it in an aligned and abundant way. So with this alignment, making sure that we're tuning to the path that is most aligned to us, feeling for that resonance, and then using our life force energy to walk that path, to pump energy into that life path so that it might manifest for us during this period of time of increased energy through the Lion's Gate, as we're receiving more energy from the higher realms, also through our bodies, through our light bodies, into the physical. So really just aligning our life force energy, conserving it and not wasting it in places where it's not really for us any longer, and then also pumping it through our bodies so it might manifest into the physical. And then here at the bottom, just something to take note of is around the light beings that are coming through during this time. So the top really speaks about the divine connections that we're having more in the physical, and the bottom here speaks about the light beings that might be coming through at this time. That also creates a sense of vulnerability. So energetically we are open. This is the card of vulnerability. And here are the light beings, which might also give allusion to some of the star beings that might be coming through at this time. So just vulnerability in terms of our auric field. Spiritually, we're very open during this time as well. The veil is very thin for communication and sometimes intrusion. So just being mindful of this vulnerability, and also using this vulnerability to our advantage, knowing that the veil is very thin. This is a very good time to be able to make connection upwards and outwards to the other realms, asking for assistance, asking for guidance, connecting to your higher self, really connecting to soul paths, to codes, whatever it is that feels appropriate for you during this time, using this openness and this, what in some senses is spiritual vulnerability, to your advantage, knowing that this is the time for open communication, but also being mindful of holding your energy body steady and your nervous system steady if it is in your path to connect to higher beings, to receive that information in a grounded and just like authentic, grounded way that's able to integrate into the rest of your life. And then just a little side note as well, I forgot to explain this card here. This card is also related to the pain, the contraction cycle from the confidence to pain. And this just speaks into this begging. It's a sense of begging as well. So here it's like we're expanded and confident, and people are being drawn towards us. And here is this energy of feeling like we have to beg, like we have to ask, like we have to go to people instead of them coming to us. And this is all right. It's one thing to learn how to be with this. Something that comes up for me is something that I heard a while ago, is that if we learn to eroticize asking, we won't have to do it anymore. If we learn to eroticize asking, we won't have to do it anymore. And that's really the aspect of understanding that to ask is okay, that it's okay to be able to ask and receive in that as well. And that this energy of feeling like we are too much and that we are begging is our own judgment. It's our own devil's advocate that's coming into the picture, and understanding that if we live in a society, which is this new earth that we're trying to build, of where people understand their innate boundaries, that asking is nothing. It's not an imposition. It shouldn't create any sense of false narrative around you for being this beggar or this asker, but simply you are opening the door for people to either say yes or no, and that is a gift in itself. And so asking and learning to be comfortable with asking is really the next step in part of this evolution, and transmuting some of the pain that we're experiencing in this contraction back into an expansion of confidence and receiving and openness and attracting. So I hope this has given you some insight into some of the energies that are flowing during this time, during the Lion's Gate, and I'm wishing you all lots of love and support and guidance for your journey ahead. Enjoy it.